Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. This is Sinikka Waugh with the Even Better podcast, and this is part of our ongoing mission at Your Clear Next Step to help us all have even better work days so that we can continue to co-create better communities. I am delighted to have with me today Janet Fisher. Janet, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be so much fun. So I have had the opportunity to know Janet through one of her many networking groups that she's a member of, and she's active in the Central Iowa community. And we met through the Truth Business Network. And I have just been so inspired by Janet and by her story and by her journey and by the way she lives her faith out on a daily basis, as well as the way that she's able to find that connection between who she is as a person and the job that she has and the work that she does on a day-to-day basis. It's so amazing. So as our listeners, as you're tuning in, if you're trying to figure out, wait, how should I be listening right now? Listen as someone who goes to work and who wonders if their work is somehow able to be or absolutely part of who they are as a person. So I am blessed to know that I wake up every morning doing what I'm supposed to do with my life. I know this is my calling. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. And I know I've seen that evidenced on Janet's face when she talks about her job as well. So I know she feels it too. And I just listen and be inspired by this wonderful story of this amazing woman who lives every day a job that is part of her passion and part of her very core of her being. So enjoy that. And I am just, I can't wait for you to meet Janet.
Thank you. I'm excited to share. Having a passionate purpose is truly a driving force for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's important to know that Janet is the development officer for Mosaic. Before we get too far, can you tell us, Janet, a little bit more about Mosaic? What is Mosaic? And because I know that's important to the story.
Yes, and I'll dive more into that as we talk here too. But Mosaic is a healthcare organization that provides services to adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And here in the metro area, we serve about 280 people with diverse healthcare needs.
Wow, fantastic. And you have been with Mosaic for a bit now, 11-ish years?
Yes, I just celebrated my 11th anniversary on April 4th, so just recently.
Fantastic. And before that, you had a role that I always appreciated when you talked about it as friend and fundraising. So that's kind of fun.
Yes, I just recently received a promotion at Mosaic, and so I was doing friend and fundraising for our Central Iowa agency and really working to bring people into our mission, whether it be as employees, as volunteers, as donors, and just partners with our mission. And the beauty of my promotion is that I get to do that on a larger level now, covering the state of Iowa as well as the Kansas City area.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So a day in the life for you, what does a day look like?
It is all about relationship building, connecting with people, sharing the story of Mosaic, highlighting the stories of the people we serve and the people who serve, who are the heart of our mission, and just connecting with people. And like I said, sharing our story and helping them see how they too can be part of a life-changing, life-giving ministry.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, Janet, you have 5 words in particular. This is so exciting because your topic is around living full. And you found these 5 words that help you tell the story of what it's like to live full. Can you tell us a little bit about that, the idea of living full?
Well, I think it's important, like I said, having a purpose in our life is just key to getting up every day and feeling motivated, feeling inspired, and going about your day with a purpose. So I believe that the 5 words I've identified of living full, really help define who I am, both on a personal level and on a professional level.
Absolutely. And I think as we unpack these, they have special meaning for you. And I think you'll be able to share the connection that you have. But I think our listeners as well we have this opportunity we can take these same words and see how they apply in our own lives.
Yes, I hope that's the case. Yes.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's dive right on in. We've got 5 words designed to help us live full. So the first word that you picked is faithful. So tell us about faithful. Unpack that for us, Janet.
Absolutely. Well, from an early age, I recall getting up and ready for church every Sunday morning, attending Mass as a family. My mom was part of the church choir and attending, particularly, I think of attending our Christmas midnight Mass and having her sing in that choir, and then praying the Lord's Prayer together. And a core memory of having my brother squeeze the life out of my fingers. But those are just fun things to remember about going to church as a family, and just knowing that that was an integral part of who we were as a family unit. And then, in college, I remember getting deeper into my faith and connecting with Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I had been an athlete in high school and kind of got away from that in college and did more intramural stuff, but I found a connection with this Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And it was there that, really grew deeper in my faith, particularly with taking a course in, it was either ethics or philosophy. I can remember this very clearly, that we were assigned to write a paper. I don't even remember specifically what the paper was about, but I remember what I wrote about was my faith. And the paper was returned to me. This was when I was a freshman in college, already timid about new experiences and everything. The paper was returned to me completely marked in red with a summons to see the professor. And it was there that he challenged every word that I wrote in that paper that was about my faith. And I thought, how dare you that you're going to question me? This is, I never experienced being surrounded in a faith community. I never really experienced people of different faith or beliefs or whatever. And I was just absolutely flabbergasted that he had such a drastic difference of opinion from me and made me feel ashamed of my faith and just disregarded everything that I had put out and poured my heart and soul into this paper. And it was that group of people from Fellowship of Christian Athletes, when I shared what had happened, that completely embraced me and said, it's not your professor's requirements that matter. It's his requirements. And by his, obviously, we were referencing our Lord and Savior. That was a very impactful moment for me, and where I decided that my faith was going to stand true no matter what the challenges were around me, because I'm a beloved child of God.
Absolutely. Oh, that's beautiful. And so that faith began early age, and it has continued to define you even in that moment of being challenged. And I know as we unpack your story, there are moments where there were challenges, but that faith foundation is a huge part of how you live full.
Yes, and I would say, it was very, very simple faith. My parents just, took us to church and immersed us in that, but it was just something that was core to who we were as a family. And now I am absolutely blessed beyond measure to be a part of a faith-based organization. What I didn't share at the beginning of when I was describing Mosaic was that we are the largest faith-based nonprofit organization serving people with disabilities in the United States. And our mission statement says, embracing God's call, Mosaic relentlessly pursues opportunities that empower people.
Wow.
I am so lucky to be a part of that.
Yeah, and you found a way so your faith does show. I mean, it's part of who you are, and you've made your way to a workplace that also shares that same faith foundation.
Yes, for sure. So the story of Mosaic is that we were founded by a Lutheran pastor 109 years ago. He witnessed a gentleman by the name of Gustav have a seizure in public. And as a result of that seizure, which back in those days were referred to as fits, very misunderstood. And so as a result of having the seizure in public, Gustav was placed in deplorable conditions and treated absolutely inhumanely. Pastor Dahl saw this, broke his heart. He went back to his congregation and he asked 54 members for $1. And that was what established a home where people were treated as guests and not inmates, where they were respected rather than resented, where they found welcome and not hostility. People who were unwelcome elsewhere flourished and created a community. So, it's an honor that I get to be part of a legacy we stay grounded in what matters and doing the right thing, even when no one is watching.
Absolutely. And knowing that it formed because someone was acting in faith out of something that they knew to be the right thing to do. And they did. And 109 years later, the organization is still thriving.
It's really interesting to note too that Pastor Dahl died at the age of 34. And here we are 109 years later, staying faithful to his vision.
Oh, that's really neat.
Oh yeah. Living full to me definitely means being faithful.
You bet. So a second word that you offered is meaningful. So the first one is faithful. The second one is meaningful. And I think I have a hint of where you're going on this, but where does meaning play out?
Well, I say every day we are faced with choices, right? And every day we are influenced by the events and the people around us, what to say yes to, what to say no to. But how do we really know what to invite into our lives and what to exclude? And I always say, when we know what is at our core, what truly motivates and inspires us, we can consciously set our priorities and stay grounded no matter the challenge or the opportunity, and find meaning in all that we do. And again, making that tie to Mosaic's mission, we're relentlessly pursuing opportunities for people across the United States, and actually have an international presence in Tanzania as well. And we are all about creating meaningful lives and finding out what each individual defines as meaning. So when I talk about my own life, I'm looking at, how do I want to spend my weekend? How do I plan my day? And with people we serve, we do the same thing. We take time to get to know people on that individual level and provide our services based on those needs. We have a story that we've been sharing for many years about a gentleman that we serve by the name of Homer. Homer, we know very little about his early life. He spent years fending for himself and was essentially left to his own wanderings until he found his way to a state institution. And Homer tells us in his words about waking up to roommates banging on the walls, falling in line on the way to the cafeteria, eating the same old food that he didn't like, wanting to have a pet of his very own, but never getting the opportunity to do that. He paints a really ugly and sad story about his life in this institution. And when he heard that there might be life beyond these walls of the institution, his staff said, don't think about that. You'll never make it in the real world. And they actually placed bets in front of him that he wouldn't ever be successful outside of the walls of the institution. Well, he did find his way to Mosaic, and he started realizing his dreams could come true. And the first dream of having his very own pet came true when he got a guinea pig that he named Sammy. And he used to sing to Sammy and tell Sammy all about his daily adventures. And over time, we continued to get to know Homer, and he expressed a desire to find a forever family. So in a group home situation, you have staff that are coming and going. Mm-hmm. And, a variety of people who will stay and then, maybe find a different career path or get a promotion. And so he had a lot of people coming in and out of his life. And he just desired to have more consistency and security. And again, what he called a desire for his very own forever family. So Mosaic has been growing in the area of host homes. And a host home is a shared model where a person with a disability lives with either a couple or a family or a single person on a full-time basis. And that host home provides the 24-hour care that they need. So through an extensive matching process, Homer met Michelle and Alan Vry, who live on a 13-acre farm. And they have all the cats, dogs, donkeys, goats, you name it, animals that Homer calls his very own. And he has been living with them for several years now and just truly living out his definition of a full life, which took time to get to know, but we were invested in doing that. So
Oh, that's so beautiful. So that idea of meaning, it's about not just your own meaning. As I'm just unpacking that idea of meaningful, it's not just making sure that your day is meaningful and that is, but you're looking into what is meaningful to those you serve, what will bring meaning and purpose to their lives, what will fulfill them based on their own expectations, their own desires, their own what they're saying about their needs, right?
Right, exactly. We take time to get to know people. We use a tool called personal outcome measures, and it's a list of 22 questions that we go over with each person every year, at least annually, where we take the time to ask them the questions. What's meaningful in your life? Who do you want to be connected to? What community activities do you want to participate? What does spirituality mean to you? Do you need deeper connections within a church community, or would you prefer to spend your time at a park and watch the ducks swim in the pond? Do you want to have a job? And what does that look like for you? And shouldn't we all be taking the time to evaluate that for our own lives? And so that's why I think living full means meaningful, because we're taking that time to really evaluate for ourselves and maybe those around us to truly live our best lives.
Oh, fantastic. And I know one of the things that I love about the mission here at Your Clear Next Step, right? Helping people have better work days, but it's not just that, it's so that together we can co-create better communities, right? If we can make the workday less of a distraction, less of an annoyance, less of a frustration, then we can be free to spend our evenings and our discretionary time or our energy even at the workplace doing those things that provide meaning for ourselves and for those around us.
Yes, absolutely.
Super cool. All right. So we are here. If you're just joining in, we are here with Janet Fisher of Mosaic, and she's sharing with us 5 words to help us live full. And the first word was faithful, and the second word was meaningful. This third one is respectful. Janet, what does that mean to you?
Well, again, I want to make a tie to Mosaic, and our purpose statement says we are called to love and serve. Well, that's Mosaic's purpose statement, but shouldn't it be all of our purpose statement? We are called to love and serve. Those are not just words, and that message does not discriminate. We were founded 100 or more years ago, and Mosaic has stood for inclusion of all people, living out our core value of belonging. And really that comes down to being respectful to all. So here's where I want to dive into a little bit about my personal story.
Please.
So like Pastor Dahl that I shared at the beginning, who had this friend that had a seizure in public and was just treated absolutely inhumanely. Well, my uncle experienced similar hardships. He was deprived of oxygen at birth and started having seizures and behavioral challenges. And at that time, it's probably 80 years ago now, he was thought to be cursed by God or cursed by the devil, however you want to look at that. And our society viewed him, my Uncle Alan, as a burden. And honestly, my family saw him as an embarrassment. My grandmother used those words when she was talking about her experience with having Alan as her son, that he was an embarrassment. So he was placed in an institution at the age of 4, and then essentially they stopped speaking about him, to the point that I didn't even know that I had an Uncle Alan until he passed away at close to the age of 50. He had no sense of belonging or connection, at least that I could understand. And I share my personal connection because it's so important for us to be respectful of everyone's story. We've probably all heard that quote that goes something like, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Mm-hmm. So when I share about my Uncle Alan and that connection with the story of Mosaic, maybe it sounds harsh, and it certainly hurts me to think about that in my own family, but I respectfully share it so that we can learn from it. You know, I can only imagine the heartbreak of my grandparents, who were probably not equipped. Things were different then, and yet they had to make this difficult decision for their family and for Alan. Like I said, times were different, yet it's still heartbreaking. So let me continue then with my personal story.
Please.
Pregnant with my second child, I went into preterm labor, and our Michael was welcomed into this world with a whole host of challenges ahead of him, including a significant seizure disorder and severe intellectual and developmental disabilities. This was really difficult for my family, and particularly my dad, to see this happening, to me, to his daughter, to his grandson, and kind of reliving the experience that he had with this brother that was then kind of locked away and forgotten about. But unlike Gustav from the story of Mosaic, and unlike my own Uncle Alan, who faced so many challenges of acceptance and respect, our Michael lived a life full of love. And we leveraged the support of our faith and medical community to truly give him his best life. And that's what we do at Mosaic too. I remember, being interviewed, and through that process got to see our mission in action, get to meet our direct support professionals who are in the homes and in these people's lives, truly being a part of who they are and who they want to be. It's so incredible to be a part of that life-giving, life-changing ministry. So when I saw this mission in action and then was invited to join the Mosaic family, as we call it, it was just an incredible opportunity for me at that time. And I really saw hope for my son's future, that one day when he and we were ready, that he would have a place to call his forever home. So we just visioned that he would have this place, beautiful place where people would love him, and it would be a place to live and thrive. Well, sadly, just 2 months after I started working at Mosaic, Michael passed away at the age of 13. So I am honored just to have his legacy live on through the work that I do every day. It's so incredibly fulfilling to have a job where I get to invite people to join Mosaic and help them have a full life of opportunity. So we all have different experiences. We all have been on our own journey, and it takes respect to understand, to take time to really educate ourselves and learn and support and listen so that we can be respectful of each other and those journeys that we've all been on.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Janet. As I was thinking about your word respectful, I think one of the other conversations that come into play on that was the conversation that so many organizations are having right now around diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, right? And you even use that word belonging.
Yes.
And that's that next step, right? Belonging is the outcome. If we're doing inclusion right, then the people who are part of that are experiencing that belonging. And that's part of mutually respecting one another. So tell me how you see that. How does that play out among the people that you interact with and you work with at Mosaic, Janet?
Well, we're striving for both that sense of belonging and that sense of connection. So knowing that there's something greater than ourselves. And we have a very diverse workforce and a very diverse group of people that we serve too. And whether that is cultural diversity, there's all sorts of diversity, whether we use words to communicate or we use a communication device or sign language or don't use a single word at all to communicate. Again, that's employees, our workforce, or the people we serve. There's a variety of that going on. And so we've really taken time to have some courageous conversations about what does that look like and how do we still get along with each other and respect that we may have different views, but we can come together for a common purpose and fulfill our mission, vision, and values at Mosaic.
Really, really lovely. So as we look at these 5 words for living full, faithful and meaningful and respectful, you've experienced a lot of heartache, Janet. There has been pain in your life. And I know that, and there's pain in every life, of course, but I hear you get choked up about the things that you've been through. And yet your next word on living full is joyful. Take us there.
Well, I think it all ties together, that finding joy in all things and having a passionate purpose is part of how you can live full and be happy and be joyful. I share, my son, Michael, did not speak a single word. His communication came through his sparkling blue eyes and his incredible smile, pure joy. And something as simple as a smile is an incredible way to spread joy. So I say, if you're stuck and not finding joy, even in the simplest things, do a passion retread exercise. And what I mean by that is simply tell your story, share your why. And then, look around you and find joy in just the simplest things. We are embarking on, hopefully, spring here soon.
So.
It's been slow to come around, but soon we will be seeing those little green buds pop up and flowers will be all around us. The grass will be turning green, and just the simplicity of that is a way to find joy.
Absolutely. So that passionate purpose in your why, the joy of your why. We publish a weekly newsletter at Your Clear Next Step, and in the history of our organization, the series that got the most comments and the most feedback was our series on joy. And how do you find that joy? How do you live that joy? How do you encounter that joy even through dark times? And I think you and I share in particular, a couple of the things, and one of them is that purpose. There is joy in finding a purpose that's bigger than ourselves.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And the little things, right? You can delight in the little things. Joy in the crocuses that, man, they've got snow on them this morning, which did not seem fair, but they are there. They get the little purple buds and the little yellow flowers trying so hard to tell us spring is here.
And I think we're trying to make our way out of our COVID times too. And, we've all experienced wearing masks and, missing that facial connection with people and truly being able to share a smile. But if you take time to even look at somebody through the mask, look at their eyes and find joy in that. And see how you can just connect with people again on a simple level. Say hi to somebody, strike up conversation with a stranger or whomever. People desire to have connection and belonging. It makes us healthier. So finding joy in those simple things is so important.
It absolutely is. So there was an article that came out in the Harvard Business Review. I think it was in summer, August, maybe of 2016. And it had this big old headline and it said, bad moods are socially contagious. Well, this isn't a headline. We've known this forever, right? Bad moods are socially contagious, but you know what? So are good moods. So if you smile at someone, you can co-create a brighter day for someone else simply by smiling at them, because they will be infected by your smile.
Yes. Yeah. So I say that Michael was born April 20th, 1998. And on that day, April 20th, I always tell people, share a smile with somebody, because that was the simplest thing that Michael could do, yet the most impactful thing. And anybody that knew Michael remembered his smile.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So, and this will take us to our last one. So you've got 5 words. We're here with Janet Fisher, the development officer for Mosaic, and she's sharing with us 5 words to help us live full. The first one is faithful, and then meaningful and respectful and joyful. And this last one is grateful. Janet, tell us about that.
I think this one kind of wraps it all up and ties it with a bow, right? So there's a verse from 1 Thessalonians 5:18. It says, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. So most of us can be thankful for lots of things at lots of times, but in all circumstances, that can be tough, right? So what about when you find yourself suffering with illness or defeat, or you're walking through some huge loss? I know for myself, as I've shared a little bit, I've experienced this big time. What I haven't shared yet is, I lost my dad 13 years ago unexpectedly, lost my son almost 11 years ago, which left a huge hole in my heart. Grief is tough. And this past year, I found it really hard to give thanks and to see the blessings when a dear family friend at age 24 lost her battle to a brain tumor just 4 months after diagnosis. And this past fall, my brother-in-law's brother passed away in his sleep at age 51. We've all experienced hardship. I'm sure our listeners today can share their own stories of grief and hardship, whether it be at work or at home. I know we have at Mosaic too. Do you ever feel like your prayers go unanswered? Sure. There might be times when we feel discouraged or disillusioned and are struggling with that disbelief, and you're overwhelmed, you're overextended, and you're just fighting those battles of every day. The needs are mounting higher, and the way doesn't look clear, and people are cruel. Life seems unfair. The enemy's breathing down your back. The storms are coming at us from all sides. So, in everything, we're supposed to give thanks, right? that's that's tough. And I've always kind of, this ties back to my first word of faithful, that God has a plan. He is holding us in his hands, and he's always with us. And no matter what you might be facing, the good news is that you woke up and we've been given today, and we're still here, we're living and we're breathing. And I say, may our every breath bring honor to him, Jesus Christ. One of my favorite songs, I don't know if you've ever heard it, hopefully, maybe you have, is called Eye of the Storm by Ruan Stevenson. And here's the refrain. In the eye of the storm, you remain in control. In the middle of the war, you guard my soul. You alone are the anchor when my sails are torn. Your love surrounds me in the eye of the storm. Be assured, we never fight the battles alone. Stay strong, choose to live full. Stay faithful, have purpose and meaning in your life, choose joy, show respect, and choose to be grateful in all things, because he truly is building greatness in all of us. So that's where my grateful comes from.
Thank you, Janet. I'm so grateful for your time and your willingness to share. And as we listen, think about the listeners who are here. I have never been secretive in any way about my faith and my faith foundation. And I am a Christ follower, and I surround myself. There are many Christ followers in my life. I know that not all of our listeners have that same faith foundation. Maybe you heard something in this conversation that sparks a question, maybe like Janet's college professor. Maybe you want to challenge some of these ideas. Maybe you have questions and you want to inquire. Maybe there's a piece of that joy or that gratitude in even the tough times that you want to learn more about. Maybe that interests you. I know that Janet would be absolutely open to a conversation. I am certainly open. Reach out to me. I'm happy to talk further. Just because this is something that Janet and I both believe doesn't mean that that same amount of respect goes to people who believe differently. We invite you to share the joy that we have from that faith foundation and that purpose-filled life that we've both been able to find.
Yeah, I would agree with those sentiments exactly. And that's one of the things I love about Mosaic. So I shared that we're a faith-based organization. Yet each and every individual that is served by Mosaic and each and every member of our workforce can define that according to their own definition. And spirituality can mean lots of different things to lots of different people. For me, I choose my faith in Jesus Christ. For others, that faith could look different. And I think having faith in each other is one of the biggest keys that, if anything, you take away from this, that believing in each other, showing respect for each other, having faith in each other, being people that others can count on is just a simple way to think about. We may be immersing a little bit more into this conversation about my personal faith, but it can be so much broader than that. And like I said, faithfulness and is about having faith in one another, having faith in the people we support at Mosaic and as an organization. And you can think about that in your own world too. Like I had shared earlier, doing the right thing even when no one is watching.
Absolutely. So, Janet, if someone wanted to get in touch with you or to learn more about Mosaic or to connect with Mosaic in any way, what's the best way for them to reach out?
We have a website that's full of information at www.mosaicinfo.org. And then our phone number is 515-246-1840. And you can be directed to any one of us that it would be able to share about career opportunities, volunteer opportunities. And we are called to stand in the gap where Medicaid does not provide. So specifically, my role as development officer is to help us fill that gap and really provide a life of possibilities for the people we support.
Thank you. Just in case we've got listeners who are not used to listening to development officers. I mean, there are funds that need to be raised in some cases. Is that true?
That's true. So Mosaic is about 95% Medicaid funded. And what we like to say is that Medicaid helps us put a roof over people's head and food on the table, but it doesn't provide a life of possibilities, which is what we're all about. And Medicaid falls short of providing opportunities for people to participate in community activities or maybe even go get a haircut. That's not something that's covered under those dollars. So we ask for our donors to stand in that gap where Medicaid does not provide, and we are building a sustainable future for us. So we've been around for 109 years, and our plan is not to go anywhere. We know that there's a tremendous community need. There are people on waiting lists, and there are people that don't even know that Mosaic services exist. So we are striving to spread awareness about our mission and ways that you can get involved. And one way that we do that is through events called Discover the Possibilities. Right now, we're hosting these virtually a couple times a month. We invite you to come join us for a 30-minute session to hear about the history and the mission and hear directly from the people we serve about how Mosaic has changed their lives.
Oh, wonderful. And we can find out more information on mosaicinfo.org.
Yes. Yep.org.
Okay, thank you. So this wouldn't be the Even Better podcast if I didn't ask another question before we wrap up. And that's really looking at your own life. You just shared some wonderful examples of how you are living full. What's making you even better these days?
I am all about continued learning. So that could be something within my church, that could be just something personal reading. I have been meeting with a group of church friends every Sunday night, and we share, our personal stories and then share scripture together as well. So that is helping. And then, my daughter's a freshman in college, and so just learning about that journey alongside her. I have a son also that is out of school now, and he's immersing himself into adult life and his career, and just learning alongside my adult children. That is a new experience for me. My husband and I have been married almost 27 years now, and we're experiencing that empty nest syndrome. And what does that look like for us? And how are we going to define our meaningful lives in this next stage of our lives? So taking time just to experience different things. And my husband is an avid golfer, so his definition is for me to get out on the golf course with him.
Nice. Especially as spring gets closer.
Yeah. So I think my learning is going to be around how to get that little ball in the hole.
There's a fair number of us that would like to get better at that.
Yeah.
Oh, Janet, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so grateful for your insights and for your sharing these 5 words that help you living full.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. So for those of you who have been listening, thank you so much for joining us. If you missed the beginning part, just hit rewind, go back to the beginning and hear this whole story as Janet shares her story about how she is living full and uses 5 words to help us do that as well. Again, thank you so much for listening. This is the Even Better podcast. And on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, we hope the rest of your day is even better.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.